As we move deeper into code, we soon realize that we need to have a way to make our interactivity a lot more productive and faster. And what that means for us is to find methods or to find workflows that allow us to do many things in a very short amount of time. One of these is the loop utility or the loop code. Looping allows you to create, to operate a lot of things in a very short burst of time. And basically what it does is it stops the code from working for everything else. And this happens in fractions of a second, so you don't see it happening. But it stops, it operates everything that is inside the loop as many times as you tell it to operate it, and then it sends back a result after the loop. Much like a function sends back a result when it's done, a loop basically goes through that specific set of whatever you have in there inside the loop, and then it sends it back into the program so that you can use it again. So the most basic format of a loop is the for loop. And it basically reads something like this. Let me paste it here. Basically, that is the simplest format of a loop. And basically what this is saying is there's a variable that's initialized at a value. And so it says, and it doesn't really need to be this way. Let me actually grab all this from here. This is actually the format that you most likely will see it in our programs. And so that's basically, we created a variable called I, and the I is the counter that we will be using to say how many times do we want to go through this specific loop. And then the for loop says, for however many times I remains less than 10, do something. So what does that mean? Well, for says, check the beginning of the actual counter. In my case, I assigned a value of 0 to that counter. Then it says, while I is less than 10, then I plus plus. Remember, plus plus is an assignment operator. So plus plus means increase the value of whatever I is plus 1. So if you say, start the count of I at 0, while I remains less than 10, keep on adding 1 to I. So the next time around in that loop, I is going to be 1. So it's going to say I is less than 1 is less than 10. So add another 1 and go through the loop. Then the next time around it will be 2. 2 is less than 10. Add another 1 and go through the loop. And it keeps on going like that until this becomes 9. When it says 9 is less than 10, boom, it goes through it. And then by the time this is 10 now, it's going to say it's 10 less than 10. No, it's not. So then that stops that loop, and then the program continues right below. It keeps on going after that. That looping takes seconds. Where is something like this useful? Well, this is something very useful when you're trying to add things dynamically onto the stage. For example, let's say I want to populate my stage with stars. So as you see in the library, I have a movie clip called Star, and I have shared it for ActionScript. What that means is I can add it dynamically from the library onto the stage. Okay, so I can actually create a variable here and declare it variable, and I'm going to call it star equals of type star, because that is the name of that movie clip. That is the linkage. Now, how did we add that linkage in there when we created it? Well, let's say, for example, I create something. As a matter of fact, let me delete that star really quick and create a brand new one. So I'm going to select that in my library, and I'm going to delete it. So the star is just simply going to be a little dot on the screen. So I'm going to create a circle. I'm going to remove its outline, and I'm just simply going to grab and create a small circle, a small dot like this. Then I'm going to make it a movie clip. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to press F8. And then I'm going to call it star with a capital S here. Then I'm going to make sure that it is a movie clip. And I am going to enable the actual export for ActionScript under advanced. So when I activate that, when I enable it for exporting for ActionScript, that becomes a class. So now I can see this from the code as long as I call it by its name. And so everything else remains as is. I am not changing anything else. Make sure that it is exported on frame 1. Those things activate by default. Everything activates at that point. This class and the name of the movie clip need to match for this to work. So make sure that you keep that naming convention together. Then let's simply click OK. It's going to tell me, hey, I don't know any class called star. I'm going to have to create it. And since you made it a movie clip, which is what we defined, remember, then I'm going to move everything that is into the movie clip class into that new class that you're creating. So basically, I am passing all of the methods, all of the variables, all of the values, all of the properties that I have within the movie clip class onto the class that I'm creating, onto that star, onto that object. So I'll click OK. And then it creates a movie clip for me called star. And then under linkage, you'll notice that it has that naming convention. That is that class that we gave, class name that we gave it. And I have it here on the stage. But I don't want to have it on the stage. I want to add it dynamically. So let me select it and delete it from the stage. Now with that done, what I want to do is on the code, I am going to call a declaration for star. And I'm going to say, okay, variable star, I am going to add a new star to that. So basically, it's the same declaration as any variable. I declare the variable, I state the name of the variable that I want to use, and then I declare the type. Then all I need to do is say, I want this to be a new star. Just like we would say new movie clip or new something else, or assign a value to it. I am passing one of these from the library onto this variable called star. So now every time I call star here on the stage, I am going to be referring to a copy or an instance of that movie clip onto the stage. So if I want to add it to the stage, I'll simply say this dot add child, and then I'm going to say add the child star, and not start, star, then close parentheses, semicolon, and then I'm going to give it coordinates. I'm going to add it onto the stage. Okay, so where do you want to add it? I need to give it coordinates. So I'll say star.x equals 100 pixels and star.y equals 100 pixels. Let's put it at 100 by 100, which will place it somewhere up here. So when I run the test for this, well, this gives me errors, and that means that there's something here. Oh, there's an asteroid, some code here saying something about asteroids. So let's see what's going on. Oh, this. I don't need that for loop yet. Let me remove that really quick. Undo this. All right. Let me remove that for loop. I don't need that. And let me look at this code here. I need to remove all this. That code does not exist. That was from the previous movie that we were working on. So I really need just stuff that we were working on, which is this right here. Then let me test it again. Now you'll see that my star appears at 100 by 100, but I only have one star. And remember, we're talking about loops. So this is how dynamically you add something from the library onto the stage. Now, this only allowed me to add one. If I wanted to add another one, then I would have to declare another variable and another variable. What if I wanted to add 30? Then I would have to have 30 variables. And that's where it becomes really cumbersome to have this format to add several things. But it does become handy to have the for loop, because with the for loop, I can do several things. Let me bring back the for loop. I still have my variable I of type integer, and I am going to use it as my counter. So the do something portion is what I want to change. And the way I change that is the following way. Declaring a variable can be declared just to have the actual space holder, and that is this part of that statement. Assigning something to the variable is something I can do inside the for loop. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to declare the variable star, and it's just going to be called star, and it's only going to be one variable at the beginning. Then I'm going to grab this and I'm going to cut all that out. So that is my variable declaration. I have declared the variable up here, and it's a placeholder, but nothing's been added to it. When I run through the loop, I'm going to say star equals new star. This right here. So not double equal, just one equal. So I'll say star equals new star. That means every time I go through the loop, I'm going to be adding one star. Okay? And then what happens at that point? Well, I need to place the star somewhere on the stage. So I can use these two things. Those two values, X and Y, to place them on the stage. But if I keep the code as is right now, every single star that I add as I go through the loop, let's say in this case I'm going to be adding 10 stars, Then, because it's from 0 to 9, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's 10 numbers that I just counted. Basically, it's going to go onto x value of 100 and y value of 100. So I want to randomize that. So I'll use this statement, math.random, open close parentheses. Now, math.random, open close parentheses, provides you with a value that goes from 0 to 1. So anywhere between 0 and 1 are the possible values that come out of that statement. So if I multiply that by a random number, let's say the stage width in this case, so that I want to place it somewhere, the stage width is the same as saying stage dot stage width. And so that statement right here, this tells you the value of the stage. What is the value of the stage right now? I don't know, and I don't care. Why? Because even if it changes, that statement is going to give me the value, whatever the new value is going to be. So whether I change this to be tiny or gigantic, stage width will always be whatever the width of the stage is. Same thing for the height of the stage. So I can use that exact same math random statement for the height, and I'll say stage for the y value, stage dot stage height. And so now what this is going to do is it's going to place every star, any of the 10 stars that I'm going to be calling through the for loop, randomly on the stage on the x and y values. It's going to randomly give them a place on the stage when I run that for loop. And then the next thing I need to do is add those stars to the stage. So let me remove this, add this portion out of this, and simply state right after I put them in there, add child star. So what's going to happen now is I started by declaring a counter that I'm going to be using in the for loop. Then I declare a variable star of type star, and that is looking at this star and saying, okay, I got a placeholder for that star whenever you call it. And then I have a for loop that's going to run 10 times and is going to add a single star every time it goes through. Each star will be called star, and that we will deal with that afterwards. But for now, every star is called star. Okay, so they all share the same name. However, I'm going to have 10 of them, and they're going to be randomly placed on the stage. Let me run this, and as you can see, I have stars everywhere on the stage. Let me make that a significant number so you actually can see what this looks like. I'm going to make them 50. And then you're going to see that you have basically a star field. And every time I test this movie, I randomize the position of those stars based on on this math random statement that I created. So that's what for loops are good for. So basically to operate a whole bunch of things. Imagine, if you will, if I had to do 50 variables for each one of those stars separately, that would take up a lot of real estate and time on coding, and it would become impossible to control. In this way, I have a whole bunch of variables added at the same time. I apply different property changes to all of those variables, and I can place things on the stage randomly, or I can do operations, if I had some other operations to do on those, such as, for example, if I wanted to add a listener to each one of those stars and make them move, I could do that, add that listener to each one of them separately through the for loop, because each for loop is going to go through this once every single time. And as you create each one of these stars, in this case, each one of those instances on the stage, even though they're called star, you can apply variables to each one of them independently, or properties to them independently, as you can see by changing the x and y values of each one of them independently.